Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. Our lead story of the day is regarding DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and the Biden administration doing a victory lap regarding illegal immigration. We're going to tell you why. But before we jump into any of that, support a true American patriot by hitting that like and subscribe button. Leave us a short, sweet comment down below. Your help support would be greatly appreciated. Well, DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas takes to ABC News and does a victory lap regarding illegal immigration because supposedly the Border Patrol agents have seen a 50% drop in the number of migrants crossing from Mexico into the United States since Title 42 expired at midnight on Thursday. We got a couple highlights from that interview. Let's go ahead and roll it.
In fact, over the past 2 days, the United States Border Patrol has seen an approximately 50% drop in the number of people encountered at our southern border as compared to the numbers earlier this week before Title 42 came to an end midnight on Thursday. As a matter of fact, we've already removed thousands of people who have arrived at our southern border. We are enforcing our traditional immigration enforcement authorities under Title 8 of the United States Code. And we've also issued a rule that provides that if one arrives at the southern border without either accessing the lawful pathways we've made available to them or seeking relief in one of the countries through which they have traveled, then they will have a higher threshold to meet to make a successful asylum claim.
So, did you hear that last bit there of that they implemented a rule or they initiated a rule? That rule that they implemented was a Trump-era policy, by the way. They don't want to use the word Trump because they know they're going to piss off their base and their voters for implementing a racist policy or whatever. See, it was only racist under Trump, but once the Biden administration does it and the Democrats, all of a sudden it's A-okay. Everybody's fine with it. So that's one of the reasons as to why we think we see a 50% drop in numbers is because they're finally implementing a policy that worked under the Trump administration. And obviously, as if it worked under one administration, you'd expect it to work under another administration. The other mechanism we think is taking place, and this kind of comes from multiple outlets, is that they think that the smugglers are trying to figure out what is going on. Like, what's the actual rule, what they can get away with. And so they think there's kind of a delay or a gap in terms of a wave of immigrants that you're going to see at the border, or at least progressing towards a number that they were traditionally seeing of 10,000, 11,000 a day. So it's kind of like the eye of the storm, and that's what we could be sitting in right now. So that was Alejandro Mayorkas there, sitting there and pushing this whole thing on ABC News. And you also have reports coming out from Arizona where there's some eerie scenes here of just the border just completely empty. There's nobody there. So before there was these long lines, and we saw some drone footage, these long lines of illegal immigrants just standing there waiting to get processed and pushed through the system. And now there's nobody there. So the United States on Friday ended COVID-19 border restriction that had blocked many migrants at the border with Mexico, triggering a scramble to enter during the night that had basically evaporated by sunrise. So again, those long lines were just gone by the next morning. A holding area by the border wall outside Yuma, Arizona, that was filled with lines of migrants on Thursday night was empty at dawn. The only reminder of a surge in arrivals at the clock tick down to Title 42 deadline was a dumpster filled with discarded water bottles and a mess of footprints in the sand. Local authorities said everyone, from Border Patrol agents to migrants and the cartels that control people smuggling operations, was trying to understand what came next after the end of Title 42 and the introduction of slew of new regulations. So again, they're trying to just figure this whole thing out before they start, again, their billion-dollar business operation, which Joe Biden is basically helping and subsidizing, and basically not enforcing the laws that are on the books. I anticipate that people are still trying to figure out what this means and how this will play out, and this comes from the Yuma County Supervisor, Jonathan Lines. We do have some footage here of just kind of the eeriness of the border and what's actually going on. Ain't nobody there, folks. Just nobody there. Before, there was hundreds of people. You got this person walking along the border. Nothing going on. And it's just insane. It's insane. Expecting thousands, and now we're down to 50%. Hey, which is a good thing. Which is a good thing, by the way. If the policies are actually working, then we got to pat people on the back for at least trying to do what they can do to solve the problem. Now, I'm still pissed about what took place before of basically Joe Biden not executing the laws on the books, which is the job of the executive branch is to execute the laws on the books, and finally they're doing it. Finally they're doing it. But again, I really do think it's Trump's era policy that's really helping a lot of this out. So predictions of chaos also failed to come true in other border cities such as El Paso, Texas, which we saw the National Guard there through, the Texas National Guard to be specific, instituted by the governor, Greg Abbott of Texas. So we saw footage of them basically pushing migrants back and not allowing them to come through. However, that does not mean that the crisis is over. Again, we do not expect this to continue. Days of surging migration have pushed holding facilities beyond capacity. Wait till you hear these numbers, you guys. Officials told DailyMail.com that border detection facilities have maxed out, holding as many as 28,000 people, as numbers detained at the border surpassed 10,000 a day. Border cities are saying they cannot keep up with the processing of arrivals. And this is where you had our Sunday episode of Jackie Heinrich of Fox News questioning Karine Jean-Pierre of this policy that was blocked, saying, hey, what happens? What's your plan B regarding letting mass amount of people into the interior of the country? Because if you recall, it was actually Moody, I think was her last name, that is the Attorney General of Florida, said, hey, you know what? This is not right. We're going to block this Biden policy where if Border Patrol is overwhelmed, that they're just going to allow a massive surge of illegal immigrants into the country, basically just let them loose. So that's not happening anymore, thank God. So that also relieves what's taking place as well. So it's a lot of these Republican things that are being instituted by the Biden administration that's bringing this relief at the border. But we don't expect to see this continue. We expect the smugglers to kind of fix out a new strategy, figure out what the hell's going on, and then have a massive surge once again. Now, if it is true, if these numbers are legit, where the border is seeing 50% decline in migrants being apprehended or taken in, that I'm all for that, you guys. Just because I hound the Biden administration consistently, I hound them because they suck at their job. But when they do something good and we're actually seeing something positive, I would like to pat them on the back somewhat. Again, I'm not happy with what they did before, but if they're actually implementing things that are going to stop this damn thing from taking place, I am all for it. And we got to be linear in terms of congratulating people when they do something good and hounding them when they do something bad. And that carries over to whoever's president, by the way. So if Trump gets in, who I'm voting for probably in the next election, or DeSantis, whoever it may be, that's the runner, then, they're going to get hounded too if they do something stupid. I think that's only fair, and I think that's honest coming from me as somebody that hounds the Democrats. We got to do the same thing with Republicans and keep everybody accountable. Well, moving into our next story of the day, this one's insane. Conservatives are slamming Biden, and rightfully so, because Biden is saying that white supremacy is the most dangerous terrorist threat to our nation. What an insane thing. And we got the footage to prove it, folks. We got the footage to prove it. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. It's going to be a little bit of a short episode because yesterday was Mother's Day. It's hard to prep, but we're still getting the news out to you nonetheless. Hit that join tab. Become a true American patriot if you like. We also have a book on sale, or not on sale, but a book that you could purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Walmart, and the link down below. Would love your support on that end. So President Joe Biden was slammed by critics after he denounced white supremacy, which is a good thing. White supremacy is evil. I hate racism. I hate white supremacy. If you're a white supremacist or a racist that watched the Ball Brad show, we don't want you here. Just going to be clear about that so we can't get some leftist saying, oh, you're racist, you bigot. I don't like racism. I'm not racist. I want black people to flourish. Any race, I want them to flourish. I want them to do well. Can't be clear enough about that. As the most dangerous terrorist threat to the United States during a graduation address on Saturday. Now, I've been at this university before, so you'll hear what university it is, and then it's going to make sense to you in terms of who he's talking to, and it's sad that he's pushing this agenda, especially talking to these specific type of students. So he tied it to the January 6th assault on the U.S. Capitol. See, that was a bunch of white supremacists rushing the building. He's getting that because of the Proud Boy stuff that's being pushed. So he tells this to Howard University students. If you've ever been on Howard campus, which I have many of times, it is predominantly a black university. So if you're a white man walking on the university, you're going to get heads turned into you like, whoa, what are you doing here? Which happened to me every time I was on campus. Nobody ever said anything weird or disrespectful to me or anything like that. Lovely people, right? Lovely people at Howard University. I had a great time there. Students were so welcoming. I was doing Bible studies and stuff on campus every now and then, but that's here nor there. But he stands up here and he says, stand up against poison white supremacy. True, that is true. And he says, is the most dangerous threat in our homeland, he said. I'm not just saying this because I'm at a black university. I say this wherever I go. Well, that's not necessarily a good thing either, because you're lying, you're gaslighting, making it seem like something is out there and it's a big deal when in reality it isn't. Again, white supremacy is bad. Racism is bad. Systemic racism was bad in the past. It doesn't exist today. But they keep pushing. The Democrats keep pushing this whole thing. And you got an awesome tweet here by Clay Travis saying, Joe Biden says the most dangerous threat to America is white supremacy. I mean, this is completely bonkers. Did anyone talk like this in the 1980s, 1990s, the 2000s, or even 2010s? Of course not. Yet suddenly white supremacy is the biggest threat in America. I don't even think it's one of the biggest 50 biggest threats, rather. I actually agree with that. It's amazing how the Democrats keep creating this makeshift reality and pushing it on people, and people are actually absorbing it and believing it. So if you look at kind of the history of the Democrat Party spent most of the 19th century and much of the 20th century using overt racism to win elections, which is 100% true. I mean, the Democrat Party, almost since its inception, actually, has been a party about race. I mean, everything they've done from hindering and oppressing black people to modern day on a metaphorical level in terms of a plantational thinking, that comes more from Candace Owens and Dinesh D'Souza. By oppressing and keeping black people down, that is the Democrat Party. I mean, all the way through. But somehow they try to, again, makeshift reality and put it on Republicans that there was some great big shift, a flip-flop of racist Democrats going to the Republican Party and those non-racist Republicans going to the Democrat Party, which is not true, by the way. Historically and factually is not true. The people that believe that are in like some Howard Zinn 1619 project revisionist history. So now they're doing it again in the 21st century. Racism just looks a lot different than it did in the 19th century version, according to them. The flames were fanned by the Republican National Committee's Twitter account, which shared the clip of Biden saying this. We got the clip for you. We're not going to play the whole thing, but here's the clip of Biden saying it.
Guts and the hearts to stand up for the best in us, to choose love over hate, unity over disunion, progress over retreat, to stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did in my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
The crazy thing is people are clapping for it, folks. People are clapping for it because they believe it. What an insane statement. And he also started off saying love over hate. The same guy that's calling half of the nation, the MAGA supporters, he's calling everybody extremists. The Republican side of the aisle is extremists and a threat to democracy. That's what he thinks of you. But love over hate, guys. Love over hate. And the messaging here is insane. Saying it's the greatest threat to democracy, greatest threat to our homeland, greatest threat to America is white supremacy. There's entire countries that want to wipe you off the face of the earth, cease to exist, exterminate you. All of us, regardless of color of our skin, they want to remove us. There's a place called Iran right now that wants to build nuclear weapons to wipe Israel and us off the face of the planet. North Korea wants to do the same thing, and he's going to push that this is the greatest threat. Gaslighting, creating a makeshift reality, which is what the Democrats have been doing for a very long time, almost since their inception. And now they're just doing it on a metaphorical level of creating a false worldview that there's serious problems in terms of racism in our country, which there is not. If you want to see racism, look to other countries. Their racism level is like up here. We are way, way down here. Again, as you saw from Clay Travis, not even hit in the top 50 in terms of problems that we got going on. But when you create this makeshift worldview, you lead people in a direction that's not built for success, but built for keeping them down. You're going to have an entire group of people here that believe this ideology that's coming from the Democrat Party, that systemic racism out there, that there's some nameless, faceless, shadowy figure out there that wants to oppress you. Nobody cares enough about you to oppress you. It's a sad thing to say, but most Americans just want to worry about their own life and figure out the problems they have in their own life. We don't got time to focus on other people. We don't got time to focus on race and all that other stuff. We got our own ish to figure out. I want you to be successful. Everybody that watches the show, I want you to be successful. I don't care about anybody's color of their skin. I can care less about it. I just want you to make a sequence of good decisions and do well in life and be okay in life. But the Democrat Party is pushing this crazy, crazy narrative, and they will continue to do so because it gets votes. It makes people reliant on the government. It makes people reliant on the Democrat Party, which is why they continue to vote for it. He also brought up Vice President Kamala Harris, who I guess is a Howard grad herself, and touted his appointment of Ketanji Brown Jackson. Both are the first women to hold their posts. Like bragging about the whole discrimination aspect of limiting the pool of candidates for the Supreme Court appointment of black or person of color and their gender. So screw everybody else of where you're at. We're just going to limit to that, which is not necessarily a good thing, by the way. I'm not saying she's not qualified to do her job, but you can't really say, quote, by the way, she's brighter than the rest when you weren't even able to reach out to the rest because you limited it by gender and race, which should be wrong. I mean, that's terrible. There's a lot of other races out there that should be included in that. This right here is what's most important, and that you are upholding the Constitution and making, or should I say, deciding certain decisions based on the Constitution. I think that's a better way of phrasing it. Biden returned to the soul of the nation themes as he spoke to students at, again, Howard University, and joined by his political powerful backer, Representative James C. Calburn of South Carolina, I believe. I see you leading, and I'm not again exaggerating. You are going to be leading it, he told graduating students. Again, let's be clear. For those who don't want this future. There are those who demonize and pit people against one another. God, sounds a lot like Joe Biden calling everybody MAGA extremists, a threat to democracy. There are those who would do anything, everything, no matter how desperate or immoral, to hold on to power. Wow. Coming out of Joe Biden's mouth. Coming out of his mouth. Oh, the irony. The irony. That's never going to be an easy battle. But I know this. The oldest, most sinister forces, they believe they'll determine America's future, but they are wrong. We will determine America's future. You will determine America's future. I mean, there's part truth and part just insane in there, and just irony as well that he just doesn't see because Joe Biden has no mirrors and can't look at it and what he's saying and have reflected upon himself going, oh God, maybe I'm talking about myself. Yeesh. He spoke as Special Counselor Jack Smith continues to probe the election overturn effort. While polls show a narrow gap between Biden and Trump, the leading GOP presidential candidate, Biden also spoke on January 6th and the battle for democracy. Of course he did, because he has an agenda to push. Because the January 6th stuff was all about white supremacists, going into the Capitol, when basically Capitol Police were giving them like VIP access and just walking them around. You actually had people with their hands in their pockets just shooting the crap to police officers inside the Capitol when all this was going on. Like, people are just checking their phone, just kind of going like this, just shooting the shit. You know, if they had beers, they would have drank them. But again, it's all about perception. It's all about creating a viewpoint in a single small lens for people to look through. And that's the only thing they want you to see. They don't want you to see all the other stuff, which is why they never released the 40,000 hours of footage regarding January 6th, but Tucker Carlson had to do so. The Republicans had to do so. And then when the committee, the January 6th committee, was exposed for it, you know who they blamed? They blamed their staffers, because it actually showed a transcript. It showed basically a pin on the footage of when and how they saw it, or basically when they saw it. And it showed that they did look at all the footage, but they blamed it on the staffers for going, well, they didn't tell us about it. It's amazing how they passed the buck on to somebody else. It's such a political thing. Yeah, the Biden administration blaming the Putin's price hike. It's Russia's fault for ending Ukraine while gas prices went up in inflation, even though Joe Biden handed out COVID-19 stimulus checks like they were hotcakes. It's always everybody else's fault. It's never his fault. He's blaming Donald Trump for illegal immigration. Let that one sink in. Let that one sink in. It's insane. And like I said, we shouldn't be creating a worldview like this where you're telling people that they're going to be oppressed by the color of their skin. But that's the Democrat Party for you. It's always been that for the Democrat Party. They won't change because it gets votes. They won't change because they have an agenda to push. It's insane. Again, conservatives, Republicans, regardless of skin color, we want you to do well. We want you to assimilate to the country, go by the creed that our founders created, push good things, make a sequence of good decisions in your life, and be successful. By God, be as successful as you want. We would love for you to be, regardless of your skin color. Don't believe what Democrats are saying. If you're somebody of color, if you're non-white, even if you are white, don't matter. Don't listen to the Democrat Party and this stuff, because it is insane. You could be successful. You could be president of the United States if you wanted to. Oh, folks. Well, that's going to be the show for today. Hit that like and subscribe button, folks, if you haven't already, and I'll see you tomorrow here on The Paul Brad Show.